Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I have one of my favorite people here. Terri-Ann Russell is back on the high road. And welcome back, Terri-Ann.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you're here. You guys, I've known about this book. She's been channeling Mother Mary, and she has 12 transmissions. She put it together in this fabulous book. It's called the Crystalline Light Activation Series, Reaching for You, Mother Mary's Workbook for Spiritual Transformation, and it's by Terri-Ann Russell. It's beautiful. First of all, the cover is beautiful, and I know that our friend
Elaine.
Thank you. Elaine Clayton did this, and she did a beautiful job. I actually got to say something on the back of the book, but let me give you an idea of who Terri-Ann is if you don't know. Terri-Ann Russell is a quantum activator. She's a Violet Flame 4.0 creator. She's an alchemist. She's a healer. She's an author, and she's a reverend. And she's an intuitive empath healer with abilities in clairsentience and clairaudience. She currently lives in Phoenix, Arizona with her husband Tim and her daughter Sophia. And if you want to check out her YouTube, she has a YouTube channel. It's Terri-Ann Russell. You can check her out. I know she's on Facebook. You guys, this is a big deal. So I want you to share the show. I'm going to turn my light up a little bit. I've got a little bump on my head, so just let that ride and know that Nancy tripped, and that's cool. But I'm fine. Terri-Ann, I knew you were downloading Mother Mary's information, and I couldn't wait to read it. I guess I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a story. Like, how did you first connect with Mother Mary?
So for this book, I was going through a lot of grief over the loss of my son. It was coming up on his 2-year angelversary. And I was really in a space of despair and grief, and I was feeling that intensity all over again. And one night I was laying in bed crying, and he said, "I'm going to bring somebody to you." And he brought Mary to me. And it's so different than his energy. Like, I've never felt so contained in love that I've felt when Mary has connected with me. There's no words for how I feel when Mary comes into my presence.
Right. So at what point did she say to you, there's going to be 12 transmissions? And then let me just tell the audience, the 12 transmissions from Mary will align you with the consciousness of your higher self, your soul, and its mission. So this is a big deal. I will say really quickly, I went through these. I got the book. I've only had it a day. I went through them all because I had to read the book, but I couldn't wait to get, and I shouldn't have done that. I slapped my own hand.
No, I wouldn't recommend it.
I was just like, wow, this is so cool. But like, what did she say when she first came to you as far as these transmissions for humanity?
Yeah, she first came in, and she was very thorough. She explained to me there was going to be 12 transmissions, and they would sort of go at my pace. So there was no set time. It's not like we're going to do one a month. It was just like really based on what I was going through and how well I acclimated through those changes. So for me, I did the first 3 transmissions back to back, and I was okay. After that, it kicked my butt.
What do you mean?
It kicked my butt. My energy sunk down. I was exhausted. I was going through a lot of emotional release at that time. And so I sort of like then had to catch up, right? So I think it took me maybe another month, a month and a half to do the 4th transmission. So it's tailored for whatever you need. So
Right.
if you go through the book and you reread the book, you may do the first one and have to wait for the integration of that.
Yeah, and I don't recommend doing that. I just did it because I was going to interview her and I wanted to know the deal. So it's, but I will say, one of the transmissions when I would, because you speak these transmissions, okay? So I don't want to give the whole book away, but I will say that she tells you in each chapter and she prepares you, and we'll talk about that. But when I was speaking one of the transmissions, my voice, like it was, I could, like I was saying it, but I could tell like there was a difference in my voice, and it was hard for me to even say it, but I did. And I knew that meant something.
Yeah, almost like as if you were observing yourself doing it.
Just I couldn't get it out. Like I knew I had to say it. It resonated so deep with my soul that it was like a big deal to say it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I
It was,
love how you describe that. I think that's awesome.
well, yeah, it was like it was weird. You see in the book, our DNA in cells are beginning to change because crystalline and light based rather than we're going to be, rather than carbon based. And the upgrades require a new understanding and acceptance of these codes. So as we read each download from Mary, it's changing us. You see, it's to activate and upgrade, you must let go of the programming. I love that, Terri-Ann.
And that's a really hard thing. It's not an overnight process. Even me, for the year I processed after I did these transmissions with Mary, I went deep into isolation and I did a lot of inner work for another year on top of that.
Wow.
So I worked with her a year and then I did another year of cocooning and processing through those old thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, the conditioning that we're taught to believe.
Our programming, right? I've been working on programming for a while too. And it's hard, and I tell the audience, you get a negative thought, just get rid of it and bring in a positive thought, cancel that out. And it's hard to do. It's difficult. It's very difficult. You ask the reader if they are ready to receive Mary's transmissions. I like that.
I believe that you have to agree, right? We have our higher self and ourselves.
Right?
Our self isn't always conscious of what our higher self wants. So I think it's important that you're in agreement with your higher self through this process. I don't think it's just a process where your higher self's like, okay, let's throw you in here and do it. I think you need to be in agreement with that. You want to have to grow. You want to have to let go of all of those things that have held you back for so long.
Right. Now let's rewind a little bit because I got ahead of myself. But the preparation for this, you go through in the book, and I'll just mention a few of these. And I wanted to ask you about a couple of them. So the preparations, of course, are grounding, which we've talked about on the show a lot. And people know you got to ground down to Mother Earth so you don't go whoop, out of here. You see, listen to, and I hope I don't botch this. Solfeggio, 6-note scale. What is this? Talk to me. Frequencies.
Are you on the binaural beats? Okay, so solfeggio rest
Yeah, page
frequencies.
31. I wrote the page numbers down. Page 31.
Yep.
Yeah.
So solfeggio frequencies are similar to binaural beats. Our body is programmed for sound. So when you hear a sound and something happens viscerally in your body, like it's almost like, so how I feel it would be like if I have a big attraction to Indian flute music.
Oh, okay.
So not being Indian in this lifetime, when I hear that viscerally in my body, I start to get little goosebumps and it takes me to another place that I'm not conscious of as Terri-Ann.
Okay. I like that.
So that's a record recognizing that my soul is feeling a familiarity to what those sounds are. And that's causing a cause and effect in my physical body.
Yeah.
Am I explaining that okay?
No, you are. As you're talking about that, I'm thinking about when I went to Scotland, I heard the Scottish music that resonated with me. So it's whatever. Yeah, I get you. I think that's really cool. She says to light a candle, burn some sage, diffuse essential oils, bring in your high frequency crystals, before you start to download and do the first, the first activation. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I tailored the book with Mary to be available for everyone. So somebody who's just starting on their path may not understand what it's like to set sacred space. So I wanted it to be very clear that we're in this space that we set that's sacred, and we bring in all these different things. I like plants. I love having the smells of the essential oil. So I use all of my senses when I'm in my sacred space. So for people that don't understand what that is, I wanted to incorporate that in here so they can start with just that and get used to being in their sacred space.
Right. Everyone's different. I light a white candle and I have some rocks that I put around that make me feel, everybody's got their own deal. Whatever
Mhm.
makes them feel comfortable. I like that. Well, and you say the book is merely a guide for you to follow while tapping into your own intuition. In the end, all healing is self-healing, and you must take responsibility for yours. I like that, Terri-Ann.
Isn't that amazing? I love when that came through to me because it's true. I think as a collective, we've been taught to look outside ourselves for other people to help us. When we have been encoded with everything that we need, we've just forgotten what those things are. So as we're awakening now, and a lot of people are awakening at this time, we're coming into this space where we're remembering different things and they're coming through. So I think it's important to understand that whatever work that you're doing on yourself, you're doing it. It's self-healing.
I
You're
love
agreeing to it and you're walking through it and you're walking your talk.
Right. Well, I will say the first is the activation of light. And I'm not going to read these because I don't want to give her book away. Um, but you also talk about the 13th dimension. You talk about source creator. Talk about the 13th dimension, because everybody talks about going from the third to fifth, but nobody talks about the 13th dimension. And you mention it in the book.
So there was a time that I wasn't aware of the 13th dimension. I was under the impression there were 12 dimensions. And when my son passed, he showed me a place in the 13th dimension.
Wow.
And I asked a bunch of people, and some people have heard of it and some people hadn't. So I was kind of confused, and I was like, okay, well, let me find out. So directly to source, that's source. I believe so that we go through like these cycles in our lives where we reincarnate, we come back, we come back. And they're like 12 cycles. And on the 13th cycle, you can have the choice to go to source or you can come back again. It's totally up to you as a soul.
I'm going to source.
Me too.
Done with this. I don't know. It's been a hard week. I want to say this book really helped me. I want the audience to know this. No matter how much work I've done on myself, this was the connection with Mary, even though I went through it quick, is amazing. And she's here with us now, correct?
She is. I felt her come in when we were talking before the show, so my ears were ringing and buzzing, and
Can I
I don't
stop?
know. Do you feel her the same? So I feel like I'm just held in this capacity of love that I've never felt before. There's no words to describe it. So similar to like when Anthony comes in, I cry, and that's a cry of loss. I miss him. Mary's energy is a cry of being held in this capacity that I've never really experienced in this lifetime.
What I feel from her, to be honest with you, is she's my old friend.
I love that.
When I held my hand out in this it was the last transmission, where I held my hand out and she held my hand. I just felt like I know her. She feels familiar to me. I feel like I had to, but I didn't. I've always had a statue, which you see of Mary behind me. I've had it for years and years. But you guys don't see it on the show. And I always have prayed to her because she is, the Divine Mother. But I never really called her in before so much as I have in the past, I would say year. All of a sudden is that how you kind of came about? It's weird. All of a sudden, like, because Mary was not really, you know what I mean? And then, because it was always Jesus that was around, and now it's her. It was just, so I don't know what that means or why that is, or.
Well, I think from what I've been shown is that we're going more towards that feminine, more
Right.
towards the feminine energy. Whereas Jesus, if you think about the Bible, it's his story, right? It's all about the male. Mary is all about the female. So the feminine energy is coming in. And I believe at this time, Mary, there's aspects of Mary all over the world. And I'm not the only one that feels her. You're not the only one that feels her. When you start connecting with Mary and you talk to other people start to come to me and like, oh, I had this experience. I had that experience. My publisher had an experience. My editor had an experience.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. That's really neat. You know, I want to stop and say there was some really cool stuff she put in this book. And I just want to hold the book up again. It's just beautiful, by the way. It's reaching for you. You know, she talks about, you talk about repelling darkness. I love how you did this. I like the fly swatter analogy. Can you talk about that? You know, because sometimes we need this white light around us, and you talk how you inhale. Do you know what I'm talking about? And then you
On
exhale.
this page.
Oh, well, you were just saying in the book, you know, and the reason is because when you're light, okay, and this is what she was talking about. When you start doing this work more and more and more, you're light, and then you started to see the dark entities in the background, and then you started to realize that you could inhale and bring the light in, and then blow it out and kind of dissipate the dark. I just wanted you to address that as because I can remember when I was baptized, this crazy lady said to me, the devil's gonna test you. And I was just like, oh my God.
Oh, geez.
But I think it's, you know, in retrospect, it's true.
Yes, I think the lighter you become, the more strong you are in your awareness, the more the dark tries to bring you down.
Mhm.
And what the dark is based on is all fear. If we have fear around that, there was a point that I was fearful in my life. When I was under dark attack after Anthony passed, I was fearful, right? So the fear makes them grow. It's when you push your light out onto them, right? Because my light, I'm powerful. When I want to use that to be powerful and repel the dark, because they don't stand a chance.
Right. And that's a learning process. It takes time. I love that you put that out. I've also been told, you know, if you see a dark entity, and you and I've dealt with it together, you send love or you send them to the light, and there is no reason to be afraid when you're light. You know, Mary's associated with the rose. So at one point, and I don't want to give the whole book away, but I want to talk a little bit. Isis comes in and she says, "You are Isadora, you are the gift." Talk about that, Terri.
I was blown away. So I had so many different experiences that just don't encompass Mary. I was brought to Egypt, and Egypt, Sedona, Maui, all these different areas in the world hold different types of energy. And for me, being in Sedona brought Isis up to me. And so Isis had told me that I was the gift. And then Mary came through and she told me, oh, how did she word it? Oh my gosh. What was it? Totally, what was it?
Transmission, is it in the book?
Yes, it was like
Under,
live like Mary or something. What page were you on? And I'll tell you.
it's under transmission too, so it would
Ew, okay.
be let's see. Let's see, Power of Light 4950. I don't know. I
Oh, whomever is cast in the mold of Mary shall want for nothing. And I began to ask what that means. And then suddenly I'm bathed in love and my heart swells as Mary joins us. Living from the heart, there is a completeness in knowing that you will want for nothing. When you trust source, God, universe, you know that you'll want for nothing. You've got to trust that fact that you will be supported. And that's hard to do when you're down here on earth struggling just to live this existence.
And I agree with that. And I look back at my parents, it's interesting. And I see that in their generation, they went through the depression. So there was always a fear. I was never taught that if you connect with God and, you know, the divine, that you don't have to worry.
Right.
And I think
Trust.
people, yeah, I think that's, you know, there's also a transmission that you say, where you bring in the inner child and you talk about forgiveness. And I think that's really cool that you do that. Um, do you want to address that a little bit or?
So I am definitely not done with the forgiveness aspect just because I've written this book and gone through that transmission. I
Okay.
am still working on forgiveness. There's still areas in my life that are deeply entrenched in not forgiving. A lot of times when we have hardships or things happen to us, it's difficult to forgive. And I know that we have to, but for me, I find that it's a process of undoing, right? It's not something, oh, I forgive you and everything's great and I send you love and blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's like that. I think things come up around that. What am I actually forgiving? Who am I actually forgiving? What is the capacity of the things that they've done to me that warrant me forgiving them? So I think it's understanding that there's a process, there's layers to it.
Right. I will say, after I read this, I was able to forgive somebody that I haven't been able to forgive. So
Yay.
that was a big,
Love that.
that was a big deal. I'm going to
It's a
read
big deal.
Yeah, transmission 5, the anchor of light. You guys sit back and relax a second. I want you to hear this. She says these codes for the anchor of light have a precautionary activation encoded in them to prevent theft. I think this is really interesting. I don't know all the details, but apparently the dark forces intercepted when they were transmitted previously. You can say you are of the light, but the universe knows whether whether this is accurate. It works the same way. When you ask a question, a spirit is trying to connect to you. You ask, are you of the light? It must say yes or no. The rule is followed everywhere, and it holds true with this transmission. And it's super important that when something comes in that you say, are you of the light? You want to talk about this? I thought that was cool you put that in there.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I was blown away that this has been tried before and it's been stolen. That was the first thing. The second thing was that I was not aware when I started this awakening process for myself that you could ask such a question. And so in the beginning, it was trial and error. I did bring in some not so nice spirits because I wasn't aware of that. So I think I wanted people to be aware that, yes, there are tricksters. They come in and they say, oh, well, I'm this one and I'm that one. And you have to ask them, are you of the light? I think it's only fair that you're on a level playing field. I need to know what I'm playing with.
Right. And that's where people make a big mistake, and they bring in stuff that they shouldn't be bringing in, and they don't do it. They do it innocently. It's completely innocent. But this happened, and I'm so glad that you talked about it. You know what I'm going to talk about here is the etheric angel wings.
I knew you would. I told you when we talked a few weeks ago, I'm like, oh my God, you got to read that one.
So this is number 9.
Blew my mind too. I'm going to tell you, I wasn't sitting here like, oh, Mary says this and this is great. I was like, what? What?
I'm going to read this quote and I'll let you tell the audience what I'm talking about here. But she says, as my light grew brighter, dark forces gathered behind the scenes. Oh, that's the other part. Oh, no, that's not about the wings. Hold on. I have to look now. Talk about angel wings, because people probably don't even realize that we all. Do you think at one time? Okay, let me just ask you this: do you think at one time we were all stars, and then we became angelic, and then some of us lost our wings?
I do now. There was a time that I had no clue about any of this, and as I've grown, and if you listen to Carl Sagan, who was from the 70s, I believe, right, long time ago, he talked about being from the stars. Totally ahead of his time. But I don't think people conceptualize exactly what that meant. I think we all came from the stardust. Yes.
Right. Now, you were told by Mary that you came from the stars.
Mary and my galactic team as well. So yeah.
And I've been told I've come from the stars.
And it wouldn't surprise me if it was the same star system.
Isn't it funny? Now, my question was always, and I want to know your feeling on this, since you've talked to Mary about it. And if she's here, does she have a message that she wants to give us? While we're.
As a collective and a whole, we're all gaining a deeper understanding of what it truly is to be a human being. Because a human being is just a being in a human body. And the more you understand that, the better off you are. The more you understand that you are light, right? The more you understand that you are light, that you are worthy, there'll be nobody or nothing that could stand in your way.
I feel more compassionate as I become more aware.
Compassion is a huge thing. I think seeing the suffering of other people is one thing, but then doing something about it is another.
Okay.
So we all have to step forward as if that person, that other person, is one of us. They are.
Yeah.
Often we think that's not our problem. The homeless situation, that's not my problem. You know, the children going hungry in this country, that's not my problem. It's all of our problems. Those kind of things should never be in our country.
Right. And she addresses that at one point. Well, should I read this or does she want to say
Sure.
anything? Well, this is what I wrote that I wanted to read. The world is filled with hatred and fear. This is what Mary says. The world is filled with hatred and fear, and currently the state of disaster is an all-time high. What you may not be aware of is that behind the scenes, the dark forces seek to control people through their minds in every aspect of human life. They want humanity to become completely dependent on them for every resource needed for survival, giving them complete control. It's a hidden truth, and it will be too much for most people to handle. Once the jaws of the trap shut, many will leave. They'll leave their bodies. So basically what she's saying is, and I want you, if she wants to elaborate or if you want to elaborate, it's that, we're down here and this is what I got from it. It's all been about money. And now that we're starting to realize it's not about money, it's not about stuff, it's about the divine, it's about connecting. And once you're connected, you'll be provided for. It's like so backwards. Does she want to say anything or do you want to, or do you want to say anything?
That's absolutely what she told me, because we count on other outside sources to feed us, to clothe us. All of those old things that we used to do in the Western days and grow our own food and sew our own clothes, we don't do any of that anymore because we're all, and when I say all, I mean the collective, not per se you and I, but all as the collective, are entrenched in bigger, faster, better. The more I can get, the better I can be, the faster I can go. Just the other day when I was commuting to Phoenix, I had a vision of thousands of people. So Phoenix is a big metropolitan city.
Right.
It was like an old black and white movie, but thousands of people commute into Phoenix. They walk into work like a zombie, do their work, walk out like a zombie, drive home, and do it all over again. And it was like an old, do you remember that movie, The Day of the Dead?
Yep.
It was exactly like that. Taken over by another source.
Yeah. Interesting. What does she say? Well, she talks about food. I want to mention this. She does talk about food. She talks about diet. Do you want to address, because she does say that she doesn't say so much about meat. She just talks about fruit and vegetables and nuts, right?
Yes. More of a clean diet.
Right.
And that's not to say that meat is bad and you can't have meat. Different people require different things. Obviously, if you're anemic, you don't want to go and then not eat meat.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is having a more clean diet of fruits, vegetables, nuts, clean water, filtered water.
Right. Now, she also says, she talks about, well, actually, I want to ask you about this. At one point, and this is the last transmission, but at one point you see a glowing orb come in. Have you seen orbs before, or is this the first time you saw an orb come in?
Yes, I don't see them often, but when they do, they're usually astound me.
Okay. Can you tell a little bit about it or?
So the last orb was the orb with Salazar, I believe, right? The High Council. And so that was about the time that I was becoming ordained as a reverend. And the High Council was very present in my life. What I had not known was one of the men that I met, this awesome 80-year-old man that ordained with me. I felt a connection to him. And I asked him, so when Salazar came in, I also felt a connection to him. And I said to this guy, I was like, can you check in and let me know about Salazar? Do you know anything about this Salazar and blah, blah, blah? Well, like the next day, he gets back to me and writes me this big thing, how he did connect. He is Salazar. He is an aspect of Salazar.
Oh my
So
God.
our connection ran deep without us even knowing.
That's really cool. That's super cool. So through all of this, I mean, how has it changed you, Terri-Ann?
It's totally changed me. I spent a year writing the transmissions, working with Mary. So as I do a transmission, things would come up for me that I needed to let go of. I ended up changing almost every aspect of my life. I really took another year inside of deep processing and cocooning to allow myself to really go even deeper into what it was that I was looking for. And this gave me the answers that I needed because knowing I was a star, knowing where I came from, it finally put all the pieces of my life together that I always felt like I was missing something.
Right. I want to back up a little bit. We've got a little bit more time. I hate to bring this up, but I want to bring up Mary talks in, or you talk in the book, and Mary talks with you about the death of your son and the death of Jesus and the correlation. And would you want to talk about that?
When I was working with Mary, that honestly, that thought had never crossed my mind.
Honestly.
And honestly, I swear 100% that thought had never crossed my mind because I was so in awe of everything else that was happening around me.
Right.
And I was so deep in grief at that time that it never crossed my mind. And when she said to me, I lost a child too,
Right. Taken
I was
back.
like hitting the heart. Oh my gosh. Like that's our connection now. She lost a child. She can speak really from what I'm feeling. The most difficult thing a mother can go through. And
Mhm.
she's been through that as well. So I was like, that really struck home for me. That was like, wow.
Did it help you? I shouldn't say get past it, but it comforted you, I would imagine. Or did you find it comforting that
I
she's
don't think any of what I've gone through in the last 3 years would be possible without my son and I having that contract for him to leave. I don't think I would be able to have progressed in this 3 years the way I progressed without his help from the other side. I think that was fully in our contract for us, for him to help me from where he is and for me to be here and do my work. It was like a like a catapult from here to another dimension that I was pushed into because of my experience.
and that's something I want you to talk about because Mary chose you for a reason. You want to tell the audience about that a little bit?
I don't know why she chose me. I questioned it honestly. I didn't know if I could be the one to do this because the work that I was doing with her was so deeply painful for me. Every transmission in the beginning that I went through brought up really heavy stuff from my childhood, from my relationships. And I just didn't know if I was the person that would be able to continue through that process.
But you did it.
But I did.
Now, now that you have done all these transmissions, and I want to let the audience know, and I don't if you want to elaborate how important it is, this crystalline activation series. It's really when you say these things that Mary has asked us to say in the book and you say it out loud, it's the vibration of your voice. I want to bring that across, that resonates and it will change. And I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like it's us connecting with our higher self and bringing this back, stuff we used to know, but we had to remember. Is that what this is more than anything when we bring these in, Terri-Ann?
Absolutely. We're remembering, right? All of that stuff, restructuring, remembering, reorganizing, all of that stuff. This is our knowledge. This is our soul's knowledge. It comes from many, many different lifetimes, but we came in and none of that we've had access to unless you're really highly advanced. I'd say the kids that are coming in now are highly advanced, have more memories of their past life more than ever.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas we really didn't have that. We may have had glimpses, but we really didn't understand it. And I think when you say it, you're going back to what you were saying earlier about saying it and you didn't, it was like almost like you couldn't get the words out. It was like,
It was like I could, it was, I don't even know how to explain it. Like my soul knew I had to say it, but it was difficult. There was only one of them, and I can't even, I was going through it so quick this morning. But it's like it resonated with my soul, Terri-Ann. That's what I want to say to you.
and that's what I've heard from a lot of people. Everybody gets something different out of this book, and what you'll get is for you, but it resonates with them on a level that only they know.
And that's what you've gotten so far. Now that Mary's around, now is Mary around all the time?
No,
Oh, okay.
no,
She,
because there's so much, right? There's so much. I worked with her deeply for a year. She's here if I need her. I can call on her at any time. Sometimes she'll come in without me calling on her, but it's not all the time.
and I want the audience to know you can call on her too.
Yes, absolutely.
All you have to do is call and believe, and she will come. The same with Jesus, just call. It's interesting, and you'll know. You may not, you won't see them. Some people don't see, but you'll know. Now,
You'll feel.
have you seen her?
I've seen her only a couple of times.
Can you describe her?
But I feel her more than anything. The feeling I get, and that's why sometimes I have a hard time putting it into words, is
Okay.
because there's this feeling that comes with it. The first time I saw her was so bright, I had to like shut my eyes. I couldn't even, I had a headache. It was like so intense for me, the light. And I had to like squint. And I had to ask her to please like tone it back a little bit. It was too much. I felt so like about this little when my ego, when I went back later after meeting with her, but I was like, oh my gosh, that was like so intense. So for my physical body, it was a lot for me to, so don't just think I'm sitting here like, oh, and this Mary comes in and it's great and it's beautiful, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so intense on me.
It was a lot for you to do. It
It
was a lot.
was a lot for me to do.
You had to rest in between because it was a lot for you energetically
Some of the transmissions, I had to rest maybe 2 or 3 months.
before you could do it. You guys, the book is reaching for you. It's by Terri-Ann Russell. You guys, we can pick this up at Amazon.
Yes,
You want to give out some information about what you do, Terri-Ann, so people can find you?
absolutely. Nancy will share my website after we're done, but I'm working on creating a course that goes along with the book for a year. And so for people that don't want to go at it alone, we can do a group environment. 4 or 5 people, we're going through each transmission together. And so you'll have the support of understanding what that processing is, because I think that's one of the pieces that gets lost often in healing is we don't have the support afterwards. And the processing and integration part of healing, I think, is a huge part. What's coming up for you? Is it inner child stuff? Is it shadow work? Is it abuse? Whatever it is, there's deeper stuff that goes along with that psychologically that maybe you need to work through. And so that's why I've created those courses.
One of the best books I've seen. You did a fabulous job. Beautiful. It's beautiful. I was just touched. I'm going to go back and take my time and really read it. It really touched my heart, and God bless you for.
I would recommend too journaling about it. Like I have the questions for the journal afterwards in each transmission. Really take the time to deep dive into each transmission, what those questions are, then take a little time for you to integrate through what that is.
I'm going to go back and do it, and God bless you for doing it. Is there anything, should we ask if there's anything that Mary wants to leave us with today before we get out of here today, Terri?
I just heard her say there's a lot more coming. So I think the period that we're going into is going to be really heavy for the next few months. And so the more you can do to be of the light, to sit in that space of trust and understand, you'll be okay.
Better off you are. Okay, the book is called Reaching for You, Mother Mary's Workbook for Spiritual Transformation. It's by Terri-Ann Russell. Terri-Ann, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on the show
I
today.
appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
All right. right, you guys. This is Nancy Earl. This is High Road to Humanity. We will see you next time. Everybody take care and God bless. Please join me next time on the High Road with stories full of love and hope for our future. You can find High Road to Humanity on TogiNet Radio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and now watch the High Road on Binge TV networks. My channel is High Road to Humanity. Have a blessed week, and know by staying on the High Road, you will make it to your destination. For a psychic empath reading, visit my website, nancyyearout.com, to book your date and time with me. I will deliver your messages from the angels, and God bless.